Hello indie game fans, I love JRPGs since I grew up with them, more in the video linked above, so I always love to see what indie developers are coming up with in the genre, with another 10 more awesome titles, which just so happen to all be pixel art, where we have one Kickstarter title that will definitely be of interest. Let's begin with the vibrant looking Talif's journey, one where you play as the titular apprentice on his journey to become a full-fledged wizard. As with most magic-themed games, you're able to use a variety of elemental magic and are able to combine them to cast different spells, all with a throwback look that's pretty good. A cute-looking smaller title is Mac's Journal, one that has pretty cute enemies as our hero has to save a puppy from some evil oranges. It's nothing too mind-blowing in terms of art and visuals, but I do love how whimsical this title is. Interestingly, this developer talks about chaining together moves to perform combos, as well as encouraging you to use items instead of hoarding them, so certainly some interesting ideas for this smaller game.
Oh, hi, I'm the developer, and my game tERRORbane is so perfect you don't actually need to see it, so this trailer is over. We're done here, bye.
As you can probably tell, tERRORbane is a meta turn-based RPG that breaks the fourth wall in more ways than one, so if you're in for a glitchy, out-of-left-field experience that looks to have some interesting ideas, perhaps give this a look. This game is filled with bugs and errors, which you must use to your advantage, where meta experiences like this that mess with the UI and level design can be excellent if done right.
Okay, there's still a few bugs in here, but why don't you take a different path?
Other gameplay modes are shown off as well, including action-adventure, rhythm, platformer and more, making it look like quite the curiosity.
Don't worry guys, I'll fix everything with the day one patch.
Indie developers in the space do love their pixel art since it's what the classics were made of, where Manafinder does look to be a great looking title, especially in the overworld. You play as an exile, searching for mana stones to harness their power for survival, hence the name of the game, where it's more about fighting against giant monsters rather than a tale of political intrigue, although I'm sure that will be in as well due to the genre, but it looks great and gets a spot. One look at Atlas Wept, and I'm fairly sure that you can see the inspiration, since it stars little children fighting against some surreal and creepy monsters, with a similar looking combat UI as one of the most famous games in the space. However, what's neat is that in battle, there doesn't appear to be straight HP and MP numbers, instead having strange bars in their place, but the combat does have an active real-time element and even alternate modes like dodging and shoot 'em up similar to Undertale. Also, there are two separate casts of characters, which you alternate between, being interesting structurally as these stories grow ever closer as you play. It's also self-described as a humanist RPG with friendly robot dogs and evil smiley faces, flipping some tropes on the head, making it a title of interest. I was so very impressed with Alterium Shift when I came across it, looking quite like Chrono Trigger in my opinion, but combining that with 3D environments, objects and monsters gives it an interesting look. You play as 3 young heroes in training, having to master the power of Alterium Essence as they prepare for an important mission. Who's with me in thinking that their grizzled old teacher will die, which will be the impetus for a grand adventure, so let's see if that's the case when this launches. If you love a great turn-based RPG and somehow do not know about developer Something Classic Games, do yourself a favor and pick up Shadows of Adam, and at the same time, check out the Kickstarter campaign for their next title, Quartet. It does have a similar pixel art look to their earlier game, which is fine by me since it looks awesome, where it certainly has some inspiration from Octopath Traveler as well. In this game, there are 8 heroes and 4 stories which can be played in any order, eventually coming together, which is an interesting storytelling setup. It sets in quite a classic JRPG trope of political turmoil and war, where heroes are caught up in this, with, of course, a conspiracy at the heart of it all. It has some quality of life features like modern JRPGs in that your AP, used to cast spells and abilities, fully regenerates after each turn, leading to more interesting combat rather than spamming the basic attack. All in all, fairly similar to Shadows of Adam, but more game from a great developer means it's worth supporting. I've had my eye on Rise of the Third Power for quite a while, where it did recently show signs of life at Bit Summit, being another 16-bit pixel art entry that simply looks fantastic. It's based loosely on the political climate of Europe in the 1930s, so essentially the lead up to World War II, which is a heavy subject, adapted to video game form, where you do see some similarities to JRPG stories. It's from the developer of Referral, a pretty good game in the genre that's worth a play, so definitely keep an eye on this. Another long-in-development title that showed signs of life is Glitched, another Earthbound-inspired title, where a glitch in the game is one of the central features. It's 4-4 breaking, where the character speaks to you, the player, possibly leading to some interesting aspects. The Kickstarter campaign mentioned the different essences that our character can embody, shown by the colour of his cap, where every choice that you make affects this essence, affecting how others react to you, which means plenty of replayability. Looks fantastic as well, so it gets a spot. Speaking of great pixel art, a title that I've had my eye on from Twitter is Some When, where you're trying to restore a fractured world using a time-traveling train, so how's that for unique? The white outlines on characters and items certainly makes them stand out, but I do think that this is a decent way of making your pixel art pop in my opinion. On top of the classic turn-based combat, there are fishing, building and cooking mechanics, mixing and matching bits from my favourite genres. The stage-based dungeon selection looks interesting as well, so again, more points for creativity, taking the #1 spot. For more RPG indie games, watch these videos and I will see you after the jump.